All right. Hello, everyone. How is everybody today? Hopefully, you are doing very well. Hopefully, y'all had a wonderful weekend. Welcome to our Young Nails live stream. I'm just going to get my chat pulled up here, hopefully, and we'll go ahead and get started in just a little bit. If you are new to our channel, make sure that you also check out our Discord server. I always post up all of the different things that I'm going to be using for our demonstration. I post that up onto our Discord so that you guys always know what we're going to be working with here. And if you want to join in, if you want to work along with me, then you always have that information. So I am just trying to get my chat pulled up here, and hopefully we'll be able to get this working. And you guys, give me just another minute or so here, get everything loaded up, and then we'll get started in just a second. All right, moderators, I'm not able to get my chat pulled up here, so I'm going to try one more time, and then we'll just be on without it. But hopefully we can get that. All righty, one more try here, and we'll hope for the best on this. All right, you guys, I'm still working on possibly getting my chat pulled up here, but we'll see what we can do in the meantime. But I'm going to go ahead and get started on our demo today. And for today, what we're going to be working on is something that's called our pop-off method. And we actually had a request for that in our YouTube, or not our YouTube, our Twitch community this morning. We do a live stream on Twitch, so if you haven't joined us there, make sure you join us on Twitch as well. But we had some questions that people were asking in that live stream, so we're going to do a demo on how to do the pop-off method using gel and full cover tips today. So to do that, we're going to start just by pushing back the cuticles, and whatever surface that we're doing, we always start by pushing back the cuticles. Not only does this help you with your prep to get those cuticles cleaned up, but it also gives you a little bit of time to chat with your client and help to determine what service you're going to be working on today. Most of the time you're going to have a little bit of that information already, but if you don't have all of the details, or if you do need to talk about length or shape or art or designs and things like that, that is a great time to go through that little bit of a consultation. So while you're pushing back those cuticles, it's a great time to do that. So after we push back our cuticles, we're going to finish the rest of our prep. And I did switch my sanding band here. I've got a new sanding band in there. This is a medium grit sanding band. And we're going to use our E-file on about 5,000 RPMs today for doing our prep work. So let me come in here, make sure we are nice and close so you can see. I'm going to bring my bit right up around that cuticle area in small little strokes. So I'm not trying to go all the way around that cuticle area in one motion. I'm going in just shorter, almost feathering strokes. And then once I get to that corner, so I start from my right side, do my little feathering strokes over to my left side. Once I get to that corner, I'm going to just lightly feather my bit all the way across and all the way through the whole surface of the nail. So this is going to remove the shine from the nail. It's going to help to break up any surface oils from the nail, and it's going to give our nail a little bit of texture. Now, when we're working with gels, we do want that slight texture. We don't want to grind away the whole nail though, you guys. That's where you have to be very cautious. You don't want to be using too much pressure. You actually basically want to just make contact with your bit and pull that bit through. You don't want to be using a lot of pressure on there. You don't want to be causing any damage to that nail. Now, once we have our nail prepped and the shine removed, I'm going to use my manicure brush just like we did, dust off a little bit of that extra dust, get rid of any of that extra dust that we can. And then we're going to use our swipe. Now swipe is our cleanser, and this is going to help to pull any of those surface oils from that natural nail. We've kind of gone through and broken up those surface oils, but this is really going to help to extract those oils. It's also going to help to take care of any last little bits of dust that are on the nail, and it's also going to help to remove any germs or bacteria that's on the nail. So now it's going to dry to a nice clean, dry, dust-free, germ-free, contaminant-free surface, and that's exactly what we're wanting to apply our product to. So in order to apply our product, we're going to start with our protein bond. Protein bond works like a double-sided tape, so this is going to leave a sticky surface on our nail for our product to adhere to. So we're going to take a little bit of protein bond. We don't need a lot, so I'm not going to take my brush out fully loaded. I'm going to run that brush around the top of the bottle, or you can just tap back and forth, however it works for you. But we want to release a little bit of that. We don't want to be using a ton of protein bond. We don't want to flood that onto our nail. So that's why I start from the center and I work out towards the sides. So this way it's not going to flood my product onto the nail or down into the cuticles or down into the sidewalls. So one coat is enough if you're going to be doing just a basic gel manicure, but today we're going to be doing an enhancement. So for my enhancements, I like to use 2 coats of my protein bond. This is going to just make sure that we have really good coverage. We've got full coverage with that protein bond over the whole nail, and we've got a really great tacky surface to apply our product to. Now, let me grab our tips here. And all right, so we've got our full cover stiletto nails that we're going to be using today. So when we're doing the pop-off method, let me explain what the pop-off method really is. So instead of actually sculpting the product onto a form or building out the nail actually on the nail, what we're going to do is we're going to take one of our full cover tips or full well tips, however you want to call them. We're going to put our product into that tip. We're going to set that onto the nail and we're going to cure it. And that's how we're going to be able to sculpt out our nail today. I guess quote unquote sculpt, because we're not using a form, we're not putting anything under the nail, we're not gluing a tip on, we're just using this tip as our mold. So when we're doing this process, let me come in a little bit closer so you can see. We're going to size out our tip, but we're not actually going to be applying this tip to the nail. So what we're sizing out is we want to be able to size this out so that there's going to be extra space between that nail and the tip for our gel to basically build out the structure of our gel. So normally when you're sizing out a tip for maybe an overlay application, you want to make sure that that tip is fitting a little bit more flush onto the nail. But with our pop-off method, we do not want to do that. We actually want to leave a little bit of space. We want to leave really a good amount of space. So let me draw you guys a little picture here today, just so you have a little bit better idea. So what we want to happen is with our nail. So I'm going to show you a picture, and I'm going to draw the picture from the C-curve view. So if we're looking at our nail, and we're looking at it from the C-curve, so right down the barrel, just like that. Okay, now I've got a little bit more of an extreme curve here than we do on our trainer hand. But with our C-curve, what we want to happen, whoops, wrong way there guys, sorry. Come in a little closer. What we want to happen when we put our tip on, we want to make sure that we're leaving space between our tip and our nail. So again, this is our natural nail. So if we were to size out our tip where it fit just flush up onto that nail, there's not going to be any space for our gel in between there. So what we want to happen is we want to size out. So again, this is our nail looking down from the barrel. We want to leave space all the way through so that we can basically fill in all of this extra space here with our gel. So again, we're sculpting with the gel. We're building up the structure with the gel, but we're using the tip as a mold. So I hope that makes sense as to why we're going to size this tip on the large side. We're not going to be using a small tip where it's just going to fit. Oh, there's a little dust on there. We're not going to use a small tip where it's just going to fit flush down onto that nail. We're going to use probably 2 sizes larger than what I would normally, so that we have space in between that tip and that nail to apply our gel. Now, let's actually get into it. So I've sized out my tip. I've got a size 1, and it does look like it's hanging off the corners a little bit. So this one I am going to customize just a little bit. Normally I would customize my side walls, I would customize my cuticle area to really make sure that everything fits, you know, from side to side or up in that cuticle area and that C-curve. But this one, we're not going to do quite as much customizing. All I'm really going to do on this one is just round out those corners a little bit, round out those edges. So this way, it is going to fit a little bit better into that cuticle area. Now, I'm not going to be putting that tip all the way down into that cuticle area. We're going to leave it a little farther out. So I think this is going to be a good size. Now, I know you guys are seeing this and you're seeing that it's hanging off the edges quite a bit, but that's okay because again, we want that extra space underneath there. We're not going to be putting that tip flush down and flat onto that nail. We're going to leave that up a little ways so that there's going to be room for that gel underneath. All right, hope all that makes sense. You guys, again, I'm sorry I don't have my chat available today. So if you guys do have any questions, hopefully our moderators are able to get that, get those questions answered in the chat, and we'll just go from there. All right, so next thing we're going to do is apply our base gel. When we're working with our Synergy gels, we always want to start with our base, and today we're going to be using our concealer pink base because to build the structure of the nail, we're going to be using our concealer pink gel. So we're going to sculpt with our gel, but we always want to start with a coat of that base first. What this is going to do, this is going to give the best adhesion. Now, I know we've got those 2 coats of protein bond, but that's not quite enough for the best adhesion. We want to start with that coat of our base gel because base is designed to bond the best to the natural nail. So when we're working with our base, all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brush, come into my gel, take a little scoop, and just tap off that edge, or if you get that little bit of a string, just tap that little string off on the edge. But we don't need a lot of this product. All we need is just enough to brush on a thin layer. So when I'm applying my base, you're going to see again, I'm going to start a little ways from the cuticle. I'm not going to start right at that cuticle. Again, I don't want my product to flood into the cuticle. I'm going to use a little bit of pressure with my brush. I'm going to brush that through. I'm going to work back towards my cuticle so that I get as close to that cuticle as I can, but without touching. That's the big trick with gel, is you want to make sure that you're not allowing that gel to flow to where it's touching the cuticle or the sidewalls or the skin, anywhere around that nail. You want to make sure that you're keeping that product off that cuticle and off those sidewalls. And you guys, I've got a little tiny piece of lint on this nail here, and this is where I will usually take my tile. I always have my little ceramic tile here when I'm working with gels, because this way, this is going to help me to keep my brush clean, and I'll show you that in just a second. But I want to take a little bit of my swipe. You can use swipe or polish remover, acetone. Just make sure that you've got a nice clean surface that you're going to be able to work on here. So I'm going to clean that off, and then we'll make sure that it's nice and dry. I'm just using a dry wipe to get rid of any extra moisture on there. And then I can use this to clean my brush out. So if there's any little pieces of lint that may be stuck in your brush, you can use the tile to wipe those out. And you can see there's just a tiny little piece of dust on there. And I wanted to make sure that I cleaned that off before I do cure this nail. Now I may grab just a little bit more of that base gel to fill in that space that I brushed it off. But with our base, we're not trying to build up any structure. All we're trying to do is apply a nice thin layer for adhesion. This is basically our foundation of our nail. Now we're going to get that into our light. We're going to cure that for about 30 seconds or so just enough to freeze that into place. And then we'll go ahead and grab that tip that we sized out. Okay, so that's our tip that we've got. We've got our our base gel is now cured, so we are ready for our application. So how I'm going to do this, I'm going to take my concealer pink, and I love using the precision applicator tubes for this technique because it just makes everything really nice and easy. I'm going to hold my tip down towards the point of it, and we're basically going to fill in this space. So if we come in here nice and close, I'm going to squeeze a good amount of my gel into that tip. So you guys, we're in the well side of the tip. We're not on the front side, we're not on the top side. We're squeezing that gel into the well of the tip. Now, I have not removed any of the shine from this tip, and for this technique, this is really important. You don't need to remove shine, you don't want to remove shine. You actually want this tip to be able to pop away from your gel. So we want to make sure that the inside here that we're applying our gel to is nice and smooth. It's a shiny surface, and our gel is actually not going to adhere to this surface once we cure it. So all I'm doing, just going through, making sure I've got good amount of product all the way through. There was a little bit of a bubble. I don't know if you guys even saw that in there, but there was a little bit of a bubble. I do want to make sure that I pop any bubbles that may be in my gel, because once we cure this, those bubbles are going to be there. So hopefully you're able to see if you've got any bubbles in here. If you do have any bubbles, make sure that you pop them. I'm going to squeeze out just a little bit more of my product. Now, I'm not going to bring my product all the way down to the end of the tip here. I still need somewhere to hang on to that doesn't have gel. Now, can I hold on the sides? Yes, if I don't have any gel on the sides, that's okay. But you just want to make sure that you're not touching any of that uncured gel. So I'm going to take my brush. I'm going to clean out my brush, make sure I don't have any more of those little lint pieces in there. And I'm going to use my brush and I'm going to smooth out this product. Make sure that it's fairly even from side to side. I want to make sure that I don't have too much right up around my cuticle area here, but just enough. And notice that I'm not bringing it all the way to the edge of that tip. When I set this down onto the nail, a little bit of that gel is going to move, it's going to expand a little bit, or it's not really going to expand, but it's just going to squeeze out the ends. So I'm going to leave a little bit of space there so I don't end up getting that product onto my client's skin. Now we're going to turn this around. I'm still going to hold from that little area down at the end where I don't have any of that gel. Now, I actually want to show you guys one other thing here. I'm going to bring in my touch cure light. So this is just a small little curing light, and I'm going to use this to freeze my gel into place. So I'm going to turn my power on. I'm going to have that ready to go. And then let me come back down here. Come in nice and close. So at this point, I'm still holding just the end of that nail, and we're going to set this down right by our cuticle area, and I'm coming in at just a slight angle. I'm not just squishing it on straight down, at a slight angle. So this way my cuticle area is going to stay nice and thin, and I'm not putting it right at the cuticle area. You can see I'm leaving a little bit of space on there, and then I'm just gently setting that down, kind of rocking that down towards the free edge. A little bit of pressure all the way through. I'm going to make sure that this nail is nice and straight, and I'm just going to give it just a little push backwards. I want to get it fairly close to that cuticle, but not excessively close, because again, I don't want my product to touch that cuticle, and I want to maintain control of that. Now at this point, I think we're good. I think our nail is nice and straight. So I'm going to turn on, actually I just want to check this one last time right up in that cuticle area, checking my shaping here. I'm going to turn my touch cure light on. I'm going to freeze basically this back half of the nail. So right back by the cuticle area. I'm not curing the full length of this, and you'll see in just a second why. But I'm using that touch cure light to just cure that back area, freezing my product into place for, I would say, about 20 seconds or so. That's enough to where our tip isn't going to move, But if we look from underneath, our product is still going to be soft. So I'm going to grab my ceramic tile again. Again, I want to make sure my brush is nice and clean. We only cured that back half of the nail. So now this front half, it's still soft. Now I can bring that product all the way down the length of the nail. So I can really build out that extension. Now I do see that I've got a little product that is touching my client's my client's cuticle, or my hyponychium, not the cuticle, underneath. I want to make sure to go through with an orange wood stick or something to make sure that that product is not sticking on their skin. You guys, this is a really important thing to note, because if you are constantly touching product to your skin or your client's skin, this is what can lead to overexposure. It can lead to allergic reactions. So make sure that you are keeping product away from the skin as much as possible. If you do accidentally touch the skin, just make sure that you clean that off right away. So that way it's not going to cure on the skin. Now I'm going to leave this product to just settle a little bit. And I'm going to aim that finger downward. I'm going to hold it downward just a little bit so the product is not flowing back towards that hyponychium anymore. It's flowing down the length. So again, I'm not going to get product on that hyponychium. Okay. All right, I think we're good. So again, I'm going to freeze my product into place for just a few seconds with my touch cure light, and then we'll get this back into our full curing light. Now, could you go right into the full curing light? Yes, but the reason that I like to use this touch cure is because at this point, I can keep that finger flat, and I basically know where my product is going to settle. If you put the hand into the light, sometimes the clients will angle their fingers downward, and that product underneath is going to just start to run. So it's going to run and it's going to move with gravity. So I like to just freeze that product into place here for, again, maybe 10, 20 seconds or so. That way it's going to set before I put this back into the light, and it's not going to run or move or flow. So at this point, we're going to cure that we're going to cure that nail for a full 60 seconds. We want to make sure that we're curing the product all the way through. So this time we're not going to just freeze that product. We are going to do that full 60-second cure. Now, if you are working on a full set and you're doing this technique, you could do basically one nail at a time, freeze that product into place at that cuticle area, turn it over, brush it out, freeze that under the light, apply your second nail, freeze it by the cuticle area, turn it over, freeze that product underneath. So it's going to be a kind of a back and forth, and you can work from one hand to the other, but by the time you get all four, or actually all five of those nails on, and then freeze those underneath, then you can put that hand into the light, and then you're going to work on that second hand. But with this technique, you do really have to work one nail at a time, freezing those into place as you go. So just make sure that you understand that you do need to freeze these each individually. And you guys, welcome to our live stream here today. If you're new, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Join our community for all of this free education. We love that you guys are all here today. So thank you for joining us. All right, so our nail is cured out. Now, here's where the pop-off method comes in. What we're going to do, we're actually going to pop off that plastic tip that was on there. To do that, the easiest way that I've found is to use a nipper. Now, I'm not actually going to be using the blade of the nipper. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to turn this on the side so you can see, I'm going to use really just the jaw of the nipper, and I'm going to put pressure. So you can see, again, I'm not using the blade, I'm just putting pressure. Now, when I squeeze and I put pressure on here, you're going to notice that the tip does pop away from the product. So let me come in a little closer so you can see. So again, I'm putting pressure on. Now, you see how that tip just popped away? Our gel underneath is fully cured. So now that plastic, because it had that shiny surface, our plastic tip is not going to adhere to our gel. So now we've really got the basic structure of our product. Now, when the product does come out of the light, this part here that was covered by the plastic tip, there's no tacky surface on here, that is completely cured. But this part underneath that is exposed to oxygen, that has a slight tacky surface. So we have to make sure that we're cleansing this nail before we go into any filing or finishing or anything like that. Excuse me. So you have to make sure that you're cleansing off that tacky surface. And we're going to use our swipe. Same product that we were using to cleanse that natural nail, but this time I am pumping that onto a lint-free wipe. So this way we can get right up underneath there, and sometimes I'll even fold that wipe in half so that I can get right up underneath there, really making sure that I've completely cleansed all of that tacky finish off all the way up underneath, and this way it's going to be nice and clean. Again, you want to make sure that you're not leaving any residue underneath there that the client is going to get onto her skin. Okay, you can come back through here if you had any of that gel that did squeeze out. You can go through and you can cleanse that nail anywhere you need to remove that tacky surface. Now, notice I did not get my product all the way back towards that cuticle, and that's okay. I'm going to show you how to touch that up if you need to. So just know that you don't have to go all the way back to the cuticle, and you do want to make sure that you are staying a little ways away from that cuticle so that you don't touch that product onto your client's skin. If you do get product on the skin, first of all, there's no way that your product is going to not lift. If you get product on the skin, that is one of the main reasons that your product will lift and separate. So first and foremost of that, but also getting product on that skin or on that cuticle area, that can lead to allergic reactions. And I know I had mentioned this earlier, but you want to make sure that you're keeping your clients nice and safe. Okay? All right, let's start by shaping this nail up, but you can really see that this nail does have pretty much the shape that we want. So all we need to do is just touch up our sides and perfect that shape. So I'm just going to take my 150 grit file, and you guys, I don't know why I put my dust collector here, but I forgot to turn it on. So let's turn on our dust collector. I'm going to use my 150 file to just shape up those sides, clean up any little bits of product that may have squeezed out those edges, clean up my shaping. If you need to, you can shorten up the nail. That works just fine. Go ahead and shorten up. But for the most part, our lower arches are right where they need to be. So I'm just, again, cleaning up and perfecting. Now you guys, I know that you're seeing me file and it looks like I'm filing on her skin, but I've already taken the sharp edges off of my file. So even if I put a good amount of pressure, again, it looks like I'm filing skin, but it's not because it's nice and soft. I've already removed those sharp edges. So make sure that before you do your filing, make sure you do remove the sharp edges from your files. And then we're coming straight in on that lower arch. We're going to come to our other side. Now we got a little bit of a notch right through here, but I think that's going to even out when we take down or straighten out our lower arch here. So I'm not going to worry about that. And yep, that's looking nice, nice and even. Now, at this point, if you do need to, you can go back through and blend out that back edge. I'm actually going to switch over to my sanding band. Or even if you need to, you could use a carbide bit if you've got a lot of bulk on that side. And maybe I will. I think I'm going to use our safety bit. And this is our safety bit Coarse. So the safety bit has a nice rounded top, so it's going to work really good around that cuticle area. So that way you're not going to damage that cuticle area or anything like that. So I am going to take down that little bit of bulk right up through that cuticle, just tapering that down a little bit, getting that to blend in. Now I'm going to show you guys what to do if you get, if your product is this far away. You don't want to just leave that with that gap, because at this point it looks like this nail already needs to be filled. So I don't want to leave that gap in there. So at this point, we're going to treat this like we would treat maybe just a regular fill. So I'm going to switch back to my sanding band. And I'm going to turn my speed down to about 5,000 RPMs. And I'm just going to prep that back surface. So that back cuticle area. And then just gently feather all the way through, removing the shine. Now we do have that layer of our base down on that natural nail. So we don't have to worry too much about filing in the back area. But if you do file too much, you are going to file off that base layer. So you want to make sure that you're not filing too much. But if you do, not to worry, you're still going to replace that extra layer of base on there. Now I am going to go through and I'm going to feather my bit all the way through to remove the shine. And I want to make sure that I'm removing the shine because we are going to put a little bit more gel on here. And we are going to do a finish design. We'll do something fairly easy on this nail for you guys today. But you do want to make sure that you're going through and removing the shine from that nail so our next layer of gel is going to adhere. And I've got a couple of little edges here. I just wanted to touch those up. Okay. So at this point, we're going to go through and we're going to fill in that back cuticle area, just so that we don't have that, that missing space or missing product in that back. We'll dust off our nail. We'll go back to our swipe, so that same swipe that we've been using all along. Pump a little bit of that onto our manicure brush. We'll go through, cleanse off that nail. And then we will make sure that's nice and dry. And then we're going to go back in with one more coat of our protein bond. Now, protein bond only really needs to go on that natural nail that's showing through, but you can apply it to the rest of the surface of the nail as well. I usually do, just because for me, I feel like it helps, helps the next layer of gel to blend in a little bit better. But it's not necessarily needed for adhesion. It really is just needed up by that cuticle area. But again, I do tend to feather my protein bond all the way through the rest of that nail, just to make sure my product blends really well. Now, at this point, you do have a couple of options. If you need to go back through and reapply a coat of your base gel, you can go through and do that. If you still have that base gel on there, you could use just your concealer pink to fill in that back cuticle area. Now, I'm going to assume that I've filed off that base when I did kind of that blending. So I'm going to go back through and I am going to use my base gel to basically do this, this quick little fill in the back. Now, what I'm going to start with is just a tiny little bit of that base gel. I'm going to brush that all the way through, getting that all the way onto that natural nail, and then just blend that out into our free edge. Now, if you do want to fill with your concealer pink from the tube, I would put this into the light, cure that for a full, actually just cure for a 30-second freeze. Then you can fill in with that clear or that concealer pink. What I'm going to do instead today, now you guys, this is something that I only do if there's a tiny little bit of space that I need to fill in. If there's more space here, if there was maybe about like a 2 weeks regrowth, I would definitely fill in with the concealer pink. But because there's just such a tiny little space to fill in, I'm going to use my base gel. Again, you guys, I don't recommend doing this for regular fills because when you apply a lot of your base gel, this can build up a lot more heat, okay? So when this does start to cure, the base gel can build up more heat. So only use it sparingly. And you can see I just used a small little bit to just fill in that back cuticle area. So again, if you're doing regular fills, make sure that you're using the concealer pink from the tube. But for just filling in a tiny little bit of space here, I can use that base gel just to level things out. And I'm just kind of blending through there. All right, we're gonna get this back into our light. We're gonna cure this for a full 60 seconds now. And then we may have to do a little bit more, just a tiny little bit of perfecting with our file. So as our nail is curing, make sure if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Join us for all of the free education. I'm going to clean out my brush here, get a little bit of that product cleaned out of there. I'm going to put the cap back on my brush. And then we are going to cleanse this nail one more time because now we do have that tacky surface from our base coat. So again, we're going to go back to our swipe. We'll take one of our lint-free wipes, pump a little bit of that on there. And I think we'll give this, what has it got? Maybe another 15 seconds or so to fully cure. And what else can I tell you guys while that's curing? The other thing that I do like to do while I'm waiting, obviously if I'm working on a real client, one hand is going to be in the light and I'm going to be working on the other hand, so you don't necessarily have downtime. But if you do, go through, clean off your gels, put your products away, clean up your station a little bit so that you don't have too much clutter on your station. For me, if I have a cluttered station, then things don't seem to go as smoothly and I tend to knock things over. So I always try to keep my station as clean as possible as I'm working. So again, we're going to take a little bit of that swipe. We're going to cleanse our nail. Make sure to remove all of that tacky surface. And then we can go through, if you need to, you could go back to your electric file to customize that nail a little bit more. I think we've just got a little bit of perfecting to do here again. So I'm going to just turn my dust collector on and we'll just very gently go through and smooth out any edges that we need to. So you guys, you can see there's really not a lot of filing with this technique. It's a very easy process and it's a really good way to get your nails into really beautiful shape without having to do a lot of work, especially on this surface here, because that tip, we just filled in that tip with product and it really created this, the shape and the structure that we need just on its own. All right, I think I'm going to grab my e-file here one last time and I'm going to go through, come in a little bit, and I'm going to taper in that cuticle area just a tiny little bit, making sure everything is nice and flush down. And we're looking good from that side view. Our arch looks right on. And I'm going to do one last check with my hand file. I'm going to turn that client's finger around. So again, you guys, by using that tip, this created a beautiful straight nail with really good structure, really good shaping. I don't have a whole lot of filing to do. Just going to go through, smooth everything out after I added that last little bit in the cuticle area. And I think we are looking good. All right, you guys, you want to see a fun design? I know I can't see the chat right now, but I'm going to assume that you want to see a fun design. So we'll just do something nice and quick and easy to finish up this nail because we want a nice, quick and easy nail. And that's what we started with. So let's just dust off our nail here. Cleanse that. Oh, you guys, one more thing that I wanted to talk about is underneath the nail. So you can see we did cleanse that with our swipe, so everything is nice and clean and tack free. Now at this point, it's not shiny. It's not a shiny surface, it's more kind of a dull surface. When you're sculpting nails and you put a form underneath the nail, that product is going to end up shiny underneath. So if you like more of that shiny finish under there, you can go through and I'm going to remove the shine. I'm going to switch to my diamond cuticle round bit and I'm going to use this at about, I would say about 5,000 RPMs. And I'm going to go through, and this also helps if you need to smooth anything out. So maybe if that underneath side wasn't exactly smooth, maybe a little bit of product ran where you didn't want it to, or anything that you might need to touch up, you can just gently go through and smooth out that underneath edge. And I think that's going to be good. So even if you don't need to do a lot of smoothing, you still want to make sure that you're removing the shine, because I'm going to put a top coat on this, the underneath side here, so that we maintain that nice shine and more of that smooth finish. It's a personal preference, you guys. You don't have to do this step, but I do like to have that smooth finish underneath there. So that's why I like to go through and do this step. Now I did use my file, so I do have texture all the way through those edges, but if you need to catch any last little areas, you can do that as well. So we're going to dust this nail off, and again, I'm going to dust off from the top as well. So dust that off really well, dust from underneath, making sure that we don't have any last little dust particles even underneath that free edge. Okay, we're going to go through one more time with our swipe, and this time I'm going to use my brush again. Oops, unlock that. So pump a little bit of that onto my brush, cleanse out that nail underneath. Whoops, don't pop your client's finger off, you guys. All right, let's get that back in there. So cleanse that whole nail surface, cleanse underneath, really making sure that that whole free edge is clean. And then we're going to wait until that's dry. Again, if you need to, or if you feel the need to, you can put another coat of protein bond under here. I do like to add that protein bond, not necessarily for the bond. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's going to be a great extra bond. But the reason that I really like to use this, especially underneath here, is at this point you see a little bit of a scratch, or like a little bit of scratching from the file. So when I use the protein bond, and again, you guys, I'm just kind of waiting for these last little bits to dry. If they're not dry, just use a dry lint-free wipe to make sure that everything's dry. But when we put the protein bond on, this almost fills in those little scratch marks that we put in with our file. So that way we're going to have a really nice smooth, really nice even color finish underneath there. Again, just give that a few seconds to dry. I'm going to go in with my manicure top coat. Now I know those of you that have been with us for a while, you're thinking it's time for the top coat chant, but it's not quite, because we're only going to be putting the top coat on the underneath side at this point. So when I put my top coat underneath, I like to use the manicure top coat because it's a very thin top coat. And I want to make sure that I'm not building up any bulk underneath. So I'm going to use just a little bit of my top coat. I'm really going to press my brush down because, again, when I put that brush underneath the client or underneath the nail here, I don't want to be touching that hyponychium or that skin underneath. So pressing that brush down and getting that to fan out. Let me see if I can get a better angle for you guys to see this. So again, pressing that brush down, get it to fan out a little bit, and then you're just going to tuck that brush right up underneath there. So again, I'm coming underneath that nail and I'm not touching that skin. Just a very, very thin layer of this top coat to coat that underneath side of the nail. Now, again, if you do get any product or top coat on the skin, make sure you've got your orange wood stick handy so that you can clean that off the skin right away. Okay, I'm going to put this into the light. Now, this time when I go into the light, you're going to notice I do put this hand in upside down, because I want to make sure that that underneath side is completely curing, okay? So to get a full cure, again, this is going to be another 60-second cure. Now, manicure top coat is a soft gel top coat, and it does have a tacky surface when it's cured. So we're going to use our manicure cleanser. Now, I know all along we've been using our swipe. Swipe does have a little bit of acetone mixed in there. So we want to make sure that we're using a cleanser that does not have acetone when we're working with a soft gel like manicure. So the manicure cleanser is it's an acetone-free cleanser, so it's not going to dull or start to wear down the shine of that top coat. So that's why we want to make sure we're using manicure cleanser instead of swipe, because swipe does have a little bit of acetone to it, which can lead to really just taking away some of that shine, and it may not leave a perfectly shiny surface like the manicure cleanser will. So that has been in the light for 60 seconds. So we're going to cleanse that nail underneath, so just like we did earlier, but again this time we are using the manicure cleanser, getting right up underneath there. So that's going to leave us with that really nice high shine finish underneath, and it's going to be nice and smooth for your client as well. So it's a personal preference. You don't have to do this extra step, but I do like to, just because for me, I like that smooth, shiny finish underneath. Now, let's get into a nice, quick, easy design here. We've already cleansed that nail, but I'm just going to give it just one more quick little dusting. Make sure that all the dust is cleaned off. And again, you guys, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, join our community, keep getting free education. We're going to go back in with one more coat of our protein bond. Just like I was saying for underneath there, this is going to give us a nice smooth finish, or it's going to help to give us a nice smooth finish and a really nice clear look here so that we don't see any of those scratch marks when we go to finish our nail. Now, we're going to grab just a couple of colors here. And like I said, you guys, we're doing a quick, easy design. So nothing fancy, nothing too wild and crazy here today. Just gonna clean off my tile one more time. I'm gonna grab a couple of my Mission Control gel paints. And for a bright, fun, springy nail today, we have got 3 different colors. We've got Mega Jam. One of my favorites is a really, really bright fuchsia-y pink. And let me find my spatula here. I'm going to take a little bit of that color and I'm just going to draw out a little bit of a line of that. And then we've also got, let's see, which one do we want to do next? Maybe we want to do Solar next. So I'm actually lining up my colors in the order how I want them to come together. So Solar is a super bright, sunshiny yellow. And I love these 2 colors together. I mean, that is just, that's sunshine in a bottle right there. All right, you guys. And then I think the last color that we're going to use is Loose Lips. And this is a soft, I would say a soft tangerine kind of a color. And yes, that's my technical word, tangerine. So we're going to put those 3 colors, just lay them out next to each other. And I am going to grab my brush. And let's see here, you guys. I'm going to use, you could use, it's a personal preference. Sometimes I feel like I like more of my square brush. So you could use a square brush, or sometimes I do like a little bit more, oops, not that one actually. This one is a little bit smaller than what I wanted today. So I think I like this one for today. So this one is similar to that square brush. Let me come in a little bit. But it's just a little bit more oval on the edges. I know I've got one little rogue little bristle poking out there, but that's okay. So this one's a little bit more rounded. Personal preference, you can use either one of those brushes really. And we're just gonna start, actually I think I'm gonna turn this around. I think I wanna use a little bit more of that pink. So I'm just gonna take my brush, set that flat onto my tile, and just slide across, picking up a little bit of each of those colors. Now you could go back, pick up a little bit more, kind of layer in your colors a little bit. So now you can see there's a little bit of a swirl right through that color. I'm going to set my brush flat so I've got product on one side but no product on the other side. So the product that has no, or the side that has no product, I'm going to set that down. I'm going to lift up the brush a little bit and just start to wiggle that, and I'm just going to start to roll that product off my brush. Just kind of flowing that off the brush. Now, if you feel like you need to, you can come in a little bit here, clean up those edges. And you guys, we're not doing anything really precise with this design. We're just setting down product. We're just setting down those colors into just a, not really even a marble look, but just a color blend. I'm going to clean out my brush a little bit here. I'm going to pick up a little bit more of those colors. And same thing, I'm going to just drop those down, blend those out a little bit, get those to flow together. Let me wipe out my brush. I'm going to come back from this edge, bringing a little bit more, and just creating patterns. Now, if you feel like you need to, I'm going to grab my liner brush. I can use my liner brush to pull a little bit more or bring color anywhere I want to. Just creating that color fade or color blend, or I don't even know what you want to call this. But I think I'm going to grab a little bit more of that pink, a little bit more of that yellow, maybe just adding a little bit more right down through there. Just creating whatever kind of pattern you like. And I think I'm going to just draw right through here a little bit more. You can blend the colors out a little bit more. You can taper them off the end, however you want to create your design. And I actually think I want to take a little bit of that color off here because I think I want a little bit more of that pink underneath showing. There we go. I think I like that. So just that little banner right down through the center there. So I'm going to get this back into our light. We're going to freeze this into place. Now you could use that touch cure light that I was using before, and you could use that to just freeze that design into place if you want to. Otherwise, you can just pop it into the light like I did here, whichever one's going to work easier for you. Now, I do want to add, I think, yeah, we've got time for one more little addition here. So I'm going to add a little bit of our foil. And you guys, I think I really wanted to ask for your opinions to see which color you wanted, but I can't see my chat today. So I'm going to have to make the executive decision, and I think we'll go with just the gold for today. I think that's going to be a really pretty color. But I'm going to go through and look at this chat later. So you guys, you let me know what color you think you would have chosen. Would you have chosen the gold, or would you have chosen a different color with this design? Put that in the chat. I'll come back and I'll read through it later, but I just want to see what you guys are thinking as well. So again, we just put that into the light for a quick few second freeze. Now to add our foil on here, I need a sticky surface. And I'm going to go back to, where did I lose my manicure top coat? I'm going to add one more coat of our manicure top coat at this point, and this is what's going to give us a really nice tacky surface to set our foil down into. So you could use really any top coat, base coat, whatever has a tacky finish to it. Just brush on a nice thin even coat. But again, the reason that I'm using the manicure top coat, first of all, I do like the tacky, the tacky finish to it, but also the manicure top coat is probably one of our thinner products. And at this point, I don't want to be adding too much bulk over the top of our nail. So that's why I'm going to stick with our manicure top coat for this. I'm going to give this maybe another 30-second freeze into place, but really just enough time for me to get my foils out. And I usually like to take a little bit of the foil out, and then again, just grab your orange wood stick, or if you've got a tweezer, sometimes a tweezer works a little bit easier. I'm going to set that onto my tile, and I like to break that up a little bit before I try to adhere it. Now, if you want to put on big chunks, you can definitely put big chunks on there, but I do like to break that up so I have basically smaller pieces to choose from. And then I can be a little bit more particular on how my nail turns out. So we've been in the light for about 30 seconds or so, just enough to freeze it into place. And I think I'm going to use my liner brush. So the same brush that I was using to just drag through my design here, I'm going to clean that out. And then I'm going to pick up little pieces of my foil, and I'm going to set those down into that tacky surface of my top coat. So just outlining or accenting, wherever you want to add those little pieces of foil, you can go ahead and do that. Add as much or as little as you want. If you feel like you need a different color, you can definitely add in a second color of your foil. However you want to create your design, just setting that down into that tacky surface of our top coat. I think maybe one last one right down here. Now, I want to make sure that all of this foil is really set down into that nail. If we look at it from the side, I'm not sure, you can see here now. You see how it's a little bit chunky looking? It's not flushed down onto the nail. I'm going to grab my stamping tool, and I do want to make sure that this is nice and clean. I want to make sure that I don't have any other colors or anything on there. So I'm going to grab my cleaner here and just run that right over the top. Again, making sure that's, that surface of my stamper is nice and clean. And then I'm going to use this to really press down those little pieces of foil. And you can see through as you're working, but this is going to help to press those pieces of foil nice and flat, nice and flush down onto the nail. So now when you turn it onto the side, you don't see any of those little pieces poking out. And I don't have to use my finger to touch that because again, there is sticky uncured gel on that nail. So I don't want to be touching that with my skin. So that's another great use for your stamping tool, to make sure that all of your little pieces of foil are flushed down onto that nail. Now we're going to seal this with probably 2 more coats of top coat, and at this point it's really up to you what top coat you want to use. For my first coat, I'm going to use my manicure top coat, and this way it's going to seal that in, again without creating too much bulk. If you need to apply a thicker top coat, if you want a little bit more thickness over the top, maybe you didn't get your gel quite as thick as maybe you needed to, you could go in with your Ultimate Finish, and that's a little bit of a thicker top coat. You could also use your Synergy Gloss as your top coat. That's a little bit of a thicker top coat as well. But I think ours is going to be just fine. So we're going to do 2 coats of our top coat. So we've already got one on there to seal in our foil. And those of you that know what time it is, now you can do the top coat chant in the chat. If you're new to our channel, make sure, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, join our community, and then you can type our top coat chant in the chat. And all that is just typing in top coat, top coat, top coat, and it's just our fun little way of finishing our nails. So again, I'm going to do a second coat of our top coat to really seal in that foil, making sure that there's no little bits and pieces that are poking out or anything like that. And this is going to give us a really nice high shine finish. So again, this is going to go in now for a full 60-second cure. Now you guys, I know that those of you that are with us on a regular basis here, you know that a lot of times I do use the ultimate finish, and I just freeze that into place so I can show you the final look. But for today, I am going to wait for that full 60 seconds, because when that manicure top coat does cure out fully, like we were talking about before, we do need to use our manicure cleanser to clean that, that tacky surface off. So I do want to wait and show you how to finish that nail completely. So again, this is going to be in the light for a full 60 seconds. When that comes out, we're going to just pump a little bit of that manicure cleanser onto our lint-free wipe, and then we will cleanse off that tacky finish once it's done. And you guys, I know I forget to show you this on the trainer hands, but always make sure that you are finishing your services with the rose oil. And I've noticed that my cuticles are looking a little bit dry, so always make sure that you do finish your services with that rose oil. Really massage that into your client's cuticles, or if it's your nails, massage it into your cuticles. And this may be a good reminder for everybody to put their cuticle oil on right now, because that's going to always help to keep your cuticles hydrated. It's going to help to keep your enhancements nice and flexible. So again, we're just using our manicure cleanser to clean off that tacky finish. And now we've got that beautiful, I'm going to say sculptured nail, but it wasn't really sculptured. We just used our tips and did the pop-off method. So hopefully you guys will give this method a try and see how really easy it actually is. And again, you guys, it's a great method to work on yourself because it's easy. You don't have to worry about getting a form on there, and it's a fun technique. So you guys, I hope you do try this. Again, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button, join our community, and we will see you guys back next time. Thanks, everybody.